Welcome back. No shortage of things to talk about today, because while, President Trump spent the weekend telling the world that America was not involved in Operation Rising Lion, he also stated in an interview with The Atlantic that Iran should not have access to nuclear weapons. I said, for those people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. So for all of those wonderful people who don't want to do anything about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that's not peace. Now, I don't want to say that I disagree with that, but moreover, that's not really a new stance because President Trump has been really, really consistent on this going back to his campaign in October. Watch.
Mr. President, how imminent is an Israeli strike on Iran?
Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen. Look, it's very simple, not complicated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Other than that, I want them to be successful. And I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt anybody. I really don't. But Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. It's, pretty simple. It's really simple. We're not looking to take their industry. We're not looking to take their land. All we're saying is you can't have a nuclear weapon. What do you think about Iran? Would you hit Iran? And he goes, as long as they don't hit the nuclear stuff. That's the thing you want to hit, right? I said, I think he's got that one wrong. Isn't that what you're supposed to hit?
So what does all of this mean? Well, I can tell you this. President Trump has been the least war hawkish president of the last 60 years, and he did run on ending conflict in Israel and in Ukraine and Russia. I mean, remember, Joe Biden, very, very excited to get us into whatever war possible, or very excited to draw out whatever world wars there were going on. You want to negotiate? No, don't negotiate. Just keep fighting. At least President Trump wants to end this conflict. But now with all of these war rumors circulating, we want to answer, number one, what will it take for the United States to actually get involved? And what does getting involved entail, right? Number two, when should you be concerned that we're close to war? And number three, are there any scenarios where a war with Iran would be justified? I believe that Obama calls these the red lines. I don't know. He never abided by them. But there's got to be a line, right? There's got to be a certain point in which you say, okay, no more. What is that point? Those of you who are watching on YouTube right now, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Those of you who are not watching on YouTube right now, you can still subscribe to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered literally right now. It takes 5 seconds. Tap the like button. We appreciate a gentle tapping from time to time, or you can smash it. We like that too. And comment. It will help us in the algorithm, which we all know is stacked against us. So President Trump did hint this weekend what it would take to get America involved in this, because so I want to go through everything that took place. We left you on Friday. It's now Monday. There was a lot of back and forth that took place along the way. So Saturday, Israel continued its Operation Rising Lion with attacks on Iranian gas and oil facilities. You guys are watching some of these. Oh, wow. My text messages are on. That's cool. Iranian Ministry of Defense buildings in Tehran, missile launch sites in Tehran. I mean, you see all of the explosions happening in all of these separate locations. And there's all of the billowing smoke from one of these attacks. There is an interception by these missile bots. I mean, this is dangerous, guys. This took place all over the weekend. And so President Trump responded to that particular attack that night on Truth Social. He said the U.S. had nothing to do with the attack on Iran tonight. He also added, though, well, pay attention to this, if we are attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the U.S. armed forces will come down on you at levels never seen before. However, he's like, now that we got that out of the way, however, we can easily get a deal done between Iran and Israel and end this bloody conflict. So what American assets do we have in the region that could be threatened by an Iranian attack? Well, we have several hundred U.S. military and diplomat personnel. Okay. We've got an aircraft carrier This is the USS Carl Vinson. It's in the Arabian Sea. We've got a number of U.S. military assets that are helping to intercept Iran's ballistic missiles, including THAAD. This is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, Patriot missile batteries, fighter jets, U.S. naval destroyers as well. So here's the kicker. All right. Trump's hints that the United States might get involved if Iran hits our assets, which I just listed out to you right there. I mean, that was a pretty strong statement that President Trump said, right? If we are attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might is going to come down on you at levels never seen before. He said it, okay? So he hints that the United States might get involved, but we're using our assets to already protect Israel. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone if Iran attacks our Patriot missiles, our THAAD system, any of those assets that I just listed, because they're being used to shoot down Iran's missiles. And on top of that, Iran's foreign minister said over the weekend that Iran has, they said, well-documented and solid evidence of the support provided by American forces. He also went on to point out what we did on Friday, which was, President Trump was bragging. We talked about this on Friday. I said, I'm very uncomfortable with President Trump bragging about Israel's use of American weapons. Remember, he went out and talked about, he said, they're using our weapons and these are the best weapons ever made. And while I know President Trump, well, I don't know him as well as I'd like, but I know enough of President Trump. I've watched the way that he has communicated for long enough that I understood what he was saying. Point is, it's going to be interpreted seems the exact way that this man interpreted it. And he said, therefore, the United States, in our opinion, is a partner in these attacks and must accept its responsibility. Now, obviously, I disagree with that. If you've ever given any sort of military aid to someone and they then use it to go on to do fill in the blank here, that doesn't necessarily mean it's your fault. It's just like if a gun manufacturer makes a gun and then eventually someone gets sold a gun and they go on to do a school shooting or murder people or whatever, is it the gun manufacturer's fault? Of course not. This is Iran just begging for the United States to get involved. I don't know why we could wipe out your existence if we wanted to. But if we have war with Iran, is it justified? So let's talk about that, because yesterday I heard from a guy who was a Christian missionary who lived in Israel for 2.5 years. And naturally, when you live in a place for 2.5 years, you still got a lot of friends that live over there. And he said that there are a lot of people over there who are starting to sound like the Israeli version of 9/11 truthers. Now, here's what I mean by that. There were a lot of Israelis who were really angry when they heard about Mossad's drone attack within Iran that just happened. And by the way, let me be clear. It was impressive. Everyone agrees it was very impressive. So why were they mad? Because they started asking themselves, hold on, if Mossad could do that, if they could plan and execute such an intricate operation successfully, why couldn't they have prevented October 7th? What, they didn't have advance notice? They had no idea that it was happening? They had no clues. They had no signs. How could that be possible? Right? Could it be that this is where their brains are going? And who can blame them? Honestly, this is where their brains are going. Could it be that Israel had an interest in allowing October 7th to happen because that would give them a reason to take military action against the country who they already know, everybody knows, has been funding and arming the ring of fire that surrounds them? I mean, it could be, you understand, right? If you are living in the United States in 2025 and you just lived the last 4 years under Joe Biden and you know how corrupt our government is, it shouldn't be a far stretch to think other people in other countries have the same concerns about their own government. But if that's true, this is not just a war. So when should you be worried? I mean, President Trump, I'll tell you this. He's the first president in our generation to not start any foreign wars. And on top of that, he brought more peace in the Middle East by brokering the Abraham Accords in 2020, more peace to the Middle East than we had seen. And he is trying to expand them in his second term. But we are about as close to war in Iran as we possibly could be. And you got to worry about, the Lindsey Grahams of the day, right? What did he say? What did he say, Stephen?
Game on.
Game on. Thank you. Game on. The game on crowd. Oh, innocent people might die. Game on. What does Lindsey Graham care? He doesn't have any children. He doesn't have any grandchildren to send off to war. He doesn't care if your children or grandchildren die being shipped off to a war that doesn't concern them. He doesn't care about that. So you've got the Lindsey Grahams of the party that may be interested in profiting off of it. And then you have Thomas Massie, who even told, our good friend Alex Stein, tapes his show right over there in the studio next to mine. And he told Alex Stein, everyone in Congress has an AIPAC contract. Those of you who don't know, that's the CONTACT, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. They all have their contacts there. Okay. So who knows? All I know is that there's still hope for our country to stay out of the conflict and not send our sons overseas because we have President Trump. This is a man who he has been very demonstrably clear in his entire private sector life that he does not like war. And in his first term as president, he did a whole hell of a lot to prevent war. He did a whole hell of a lot to broker peace, specifically in this region. And what else do we know about world conflict and President Trump? It took President Trump leaving office for Russia to decide that it was a good idea to finally invade Ukraine. They didn't do it while President Trump was in office. Why? Because they know that he doesn't want war. He wants peace. On Sunday, President Trump posted a follow-up on Truth Social. He said, Iran and Israel should make a deal and will make a deal, just like I got India and Pakistan to make, in that case by using trade with the United States to bring reason, cohesion, and sanity into the talks with two excellent leaders who were able to quickly make a decision and stop. We will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings now taking place. Make the Middle East great again. This is a man who doesn't want war. And I can tell you, we're already a hell of a lot better off than if we had cackling Kamala in charge, because we already know what policy she would bring. She already gave it to us in the last administration. It was a whole lot of, oh, yes, sure, we're your allies, Israel. Okay, Hamas, we're going to fund you. We're going to send a bunch of humanitarian aid to Gaza and you're going to take it. And we're just going to keep perpetuating this. And then guess what happens? The United States, once again, is stuck paying both sides. You are funding both sides of the conflict. So I trust President Trump a hell of a lot more than I trust anyone else who has been there for decades, has their AIPAC contacts and profits off of forever wars, as long as it's your sons dying and not theirs. That's what I can tell you about that matter. I want to bring in the panel and get to what happened with all of these No Kings protests, just your friendly neighborhood riot after the break. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor is there for those of you who you live in pain. You think that that's your life now. It doesn't have to be, because Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free daily supplement that is going to help your body fight pain naturally. And the thing that most people don't realize, if they haven't heard about Relief Factor, is that your pain is typically pain in the body is due to inflammation. You've got inflammation somewhere in your joints, neck, back, knee, elbow, wherever the case may be, wherever your pain is. It's typically inflammation that's causing the pain. So wouldn't it be great if you took a supplement that actually just rid your body at the root cause of the pain? You can do that with Relief Factor. Now, it doesn't come with all of the lovely fruits and grains and all that stuff that's in this picture, but what it does come with is a 3-week quick start pack of Relief Factor that 70% of the people who buy that, they keep on ordering more. That's how many people it's working for. So the odds are in your favor that it's going to work for you. Also, they've got a guarantee, so you've literally got nothing to lose except your pain. It's $19.95, less than $1 a day. You can try it and see for yourself. ReliefFactor.com is where you can get it. ReliefFactor.com. All right, welcome to the show. Of course, we have First Buddy, Matthew Marsden, BlazeTV contributor and actor and producer extraordinaire. We also have my Texas state representative, Mitch Little here.
Cheers.
Of course, the 65th district.
65th.
And you're here, and you just finished your first legislative session.
It's a little traumatizing. I'm glad to be home.
Yeah, I was like, you made it out alive.
I did.
That's good.
It's good.
We're gonna get into the session. I want to talk about this No King's Day first, but since I have you here, and Stephen just got me all pissed off about taxes. Why property taxes are still a thing?
It's going to continue to be a thing because government spending continues to be a thing. This is the thing. I was telling people it's hard to explain why we haven't gotten a lot of property tax relief. But let me make it super simple for you. There's 150 people in the Texas House of Representatives. If you laid them out ideologically from left to right along the spectrum, the 100 people in the middle, the thing that they agree about is spending your money. I mean, they can't spend it fast enough.
Yeah.
So until we get our hands around the spending problem, property tax problem it's a Band-Aid.
It's awful.
Truly.
And Stephen, can you please, what percentage of the time do we spend talking about how much we hate taxes?
I'd spend all of it if you'd let me.
No, you and me at home. It's just we're constantly like, ugh. And then today I'm already pissed off about taxes because he just reminded me that we paid a big chunk to the federal government.
You never own anything.
Never. I know that's what makes me so mad. And then so answer this to me really quickly, and then we can move on because I actually don't know the answer. Maybe you don't. I would expect that you do. If you inherit property from someone else, from your parents, from your family, you still have to pay property taxes.
Oh, you're absolutely going to be paying property tax not only on your house but on anything you inherit for the rest of your life. Real estate
nuts.
Wise. Yes, it is.
So, if your parents leave you land, you potentially you're like, oh well, I have to give that up. Only specifically, everything could be paid off. Specifically, you would have to give it up because you couldn't pay the property taxes.
Well, if it's just a piece of open land, like unused land, typically it's on what's called an open space exemption, or it might even be on an agricultural exemption. You got a house on it, you got an office building on it, you're gonna be paying tax.
You're screwed.
For a long time.
God, that's so messed up. It makes me so mad. All right. Well, later on, I want to talk about what's happening in Texas and kind of the landscape of things after your first session, because so goes Texas, so goes the country, as we know. But I want to get into these No King's Day protests, which were happening in Texas as well, because we had over the weekend, approximately 10,000 protesters in downtown Dallas. I believe that this is from our team at Blaze, went and took this footage. And, they had to put the Palestine stuff in there. We were talking about what happened at the Capitol with these over off air. And Mitch, you mentioned they also had a drag show in Austin, because they're just inserting everything. Like anything that they can think of, any buzzword that they can think of for these particular protests, they're inserting.
Well, my wife and I were actually in Austin on Saturday. I was moving out of my apartment from the session, and I saw it kind of start to build. But I just don't understand why anytime there's a protest having to do with something, drag queens just appear like magical fairies. I mean,
they literally are magical fairies.
But
actually.
They're not there to contribute anything to the narrative. It's just and there are very serious, state politicians testifying about, hey, we don't allow kings in this country. It's hard to be taken seriously when there's a 6'5" man in a blonde wig behind you gesticulating. So
you think?
I think it is.
Yeah. So you had, of course, LA, where it was not a friendly neighborhood, peaceful protest. So it, of course, turned into a riot. You had rioters throwing fireworks, bottles, debris at police officers, and they decided to enforce an 8 p.m. curfew. But all the AP showed up was the LAPD's response, of course. Watch. They didn't show anything that came before this. Just LAPD responding to all of the violence. And you can imagine the AP's commentary on this, how terrible LAPD is for daring shoot tear gas. So I guess they should just let the city burn. Sometimes I do think that about that place in particular. Matt, does that make me a bad person?
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. I mean, I think that this is why the news is dying. There was a picture, I think it was on the New York Post, of them pushing like this old guy, and they were like, look,
Oh, yeah.
Old man pushed. I'm like, did you see him attack the horse before that? Like, these horses are officers, right? It's like when you have a canine, they're a part of the unit. You don't get to attack and just let it go. But again, look, we all know now that they're full of lies. We know the media's we know the game. We know they're only going to show you one little section of the video. They're not going to show the whole video. And we're clued up to this. But look, there's a reason why all these different groups come together, right? It's basic Marxism. And what they're doing is they're looking, because none of these groups are based on anything substantial, right? They're all based upon a house. It's like a house built on sand. But what they do, and we've said this before, is they'll go, hey, you're against that. And I'm against that. And we might not agree and we might not have anything in common apart from that. So let's join together against that. And this is basically what's happening. And they're all joining up against the United States of America and our Constitution. That's what it's all about. They all hate America at the end of the day. I don't see what Palestine has got nothing to do with this. I mean, drag queens have got nothing to do with this.
I think you seized on it. There's no plot. You know, in any good drama, there's always a plot. Why are we here? Well, no kings. Well, why are there drag queens? I don't know. Why? There is the entire subplot of this is to cause the government to lose its monopoly on violence. And so it's to undermine the order that exists in every society, right? And so you see people out in the streets painting federal buildings, attacking police animals. It's just a reminder that the government doesn't hold the monopoly on violence until they do. So when Austin PD and the DPS show up and they form lines and they prevent people from attacking federal buildings, then the underlying weakness of the movement is revealed.
Yeah, but also what they're trying to do, I think, certainly with the no kings. By the way, no kings, but certainly a few queens in there, actually. Right, but what I think that what the left is very, very good at doing is commandeering the language and optics, right? So what they're doing is they're look at all these people who are coming out against immigration, against deportation, for immigration. And the reason why they show these big pictures, and it's really interesting. If you look at what they've juxtaposed on social media, they're like, look at how many people turned up here. And look at how few people turned up for the parades for the army. Mm-hmm. They're gaslighting us into us believing that we're a minority.
It's not a broad movement. It's not
not at all.
I think the average person who's at home seeing this on television is like, well, why don't we want to deport illegal aliens who are not properly here in the country?
Mm-hmm.
And they're flying the flags.
Yeah.
But like I said, they are very, very good when it comes to optics and putting out these images that make you feel like you are the one that's in the wrong. And as you said, Mitch, it's absolutely the opposite. Most people are actually backing Trump. Certainly immigrants, legal immigrants, are backing Trump in getting these people out. But this is what they do. They try and push to push an agenda to say that there are more people that are for the immigration into the country, when that's just absolutely not true.
Yeah. Did you guys see my inbox was flooded over the weekend of some people who were very angry at me for words on a hat. They did not like the hat that I posted,
I didn't see that. Now I want to see that.
You want to see the hat? I'm sure Steven had. It's just this on a hat.
Merching. This is perfect.
Support your local ICE raids over at saramerch.com. And there were some people who were, it must have been posted in some like illegal Reddit or something. I don't know, because there were a bunch of them that flooded everything all at once. But there was a death threat in particular that, when you make a death threat that is credible enough, I'm going to take you seriously and I'm going to take you at your word. And it was just incredible to me, the amount of people who, A, think that that's worth threatening someone over, but B, the misinformation that they have, to use their own term, the misinformation that they have, they're like, oh, well, who's to say that you're not next, even if you're a citizen? And I'm like, the fact that I'm a citizen is this is not hard. And they actually think that citizens are being rounded up because of the color of their skin. And I'm like, I'm not even tan yet for the summer.
But the media said that the reason for this is because the media has been disingenuous again.
Yes.
And what they're saying is
Maryland father.
Maryland father, which is a complete lie. They're saying that this family was deported, an American citizen was deported, when actually it was the parents that were deported and they chose to take their children with them, which is a little bit different. The child itself wasn't deported, but the parents, as they should do, took their kid with them.
Right.
But again, it's the media, and the media used to think that they had a responsibility to tell the truth, because when they go out there and they put this information out there, most people, certainly our age, Mitch, you're saying our age, right? Yeah. would look and they go, okay, well, I can rely on that. That is, they're reporting the truth.
Right.
Now they're not. It's a weaponized media. So there are still some people that think that, but they haven't recognized that the media is weaponized and they're not going to tell you the truth. And so it's a huge problem. I mean, thankfully we've got X, which is countering it, and a few channels like the Blaze that are countering that narrative. But this is why you're getting these kind of posts. And by the way, we'd all be mad if American citizens were being deported.
1,000%.
No question.
This is why it's insane.
Of course, like I would be the first one to call President Trump out if he were abusing this process or abusing this system. But we literally just voted in November, and everyone was like, "Yeah, we want illegal criminals out of our country." It's really simple.
You weren't the only people with death threats over the weekend, right? So in Austin, with the No Kings protests, there was apparently someone who was at the Capitol who was going to attack legislators and saying, I'm making death threats against legislators. And so the House Democrat caucus immediately issued a letter asking Governor Abbott to protect their protest. It turned out a few hours later that it was an extreme far-left liberal who was looking for Republicans to kill.
Of course it was.
That never happens.
I'm sorry, it occasionally happens.
It never happens. It's never the left that's threatening to kill people. Ever, ever, ever. Honest.
Of course it was.
It's always them.
It's always them.
They get wound into this furor over stuff that's not even real. There's no plot.
But their lives are make-believe. For the most part, they do live in this like kind of weird bubble where men can be women and women can be men. So it's no surprise to me that they get all like wound up about something that isn't true. By the way, Mayor Karen Bass did this as well, and it drives me bonkers. And again, I know that we highlight this on this show, but for me, if I see another person come out and say you are targeting immigrant communities, no, they're not. Mm-hmm. They're targeting illegal aliens, is what they're doing. I'm an immigrant. I'm not worried about ICE knocking on my door.
Yeah, but you're white, Matt. That's what they would tell you.
I do not identify as a white man.
You're white with blue eyes. You don't have to worry about that. It's the brown people, they say.
Yeah, Gonzales.
They told me that.
Coming for you.
They told me my son is so dark-skinned that he's going to get deported. Oh, my goodness. He looks like he's from Venezuela, I'm told.
And they're not racist. They're not the racist.
Not at all.
Right, exactly. I'm just like, no, I literally don't care what color skin you have. If you're here from Switzerland and you're here illegally and didn't follow the proper policies and procedures, you should leave. You should also be deported. I'm very uniform in this. It has nothing to do with race to any of us. It's just the other side. That's all that they see is race. And so you have President Trump in response to all of this over the weekend. He posted, it was a very, very long post, but he said that they've want to still facilitate the largest mass deportation operation of illegal aliens in history. ICE officers are herewith ordered by notice of this truth to do all in their power to achieve the very important goal of delivering the single largest mass deportation program in history. In order to achieve this, we must expand efforts to detain and deport illegal aliens in America's largest cities, Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, where millions upon millions of illegal aliens reside. And so he went into explaining he goes on about cheating in elections, growing the welfare state. All true, by the way. But he talks about going into sanctuary cities. He says, I want ICE, Border Patrol, and our great and patriotic law enforcement officers to focus on our crime-ridden and deadly inner cities and those places where sanctuary cities play such a big role. So let's see what happens, because you've got all these mayors and all of these governors who are claiming that they're going to be the big bad guy here. Oh, who's the big? I won't curse with Mitch here. Who's the big B in town?
Stop on my. I listen to the show. It's not like you're hiding from anyone, Sarah.
I'm a little bit embarrassed.
Well, I'm just like, well, you swear in front of me?
Yeah, really.
You're just Matt.
It's true. This is true.
We have a distinguished leader
person.
here.
It seems like we have this big lie that's being told in our country that our economy cannot function without the participation of these people in it. And I just say, let's find out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
exactly
find
right.
out.
Exactly right. Yeah, and I was a little disappointed that he came out and said, okay, all right, fine, for, what did he say, the farms and hotels and, I mean, all of these restaurants.
No.
All of these big, bigger industries.
We're not going to start making exceptions.
Right.
I'm also very concerned about the ongoing participation of China in our higher education.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is something that this is not really a place for us to be making exceptions. This movement came into office on the back of something very real that is a public sentiment, and we need to finish the job.
Yeah, totally agree.
No, I mean, we said on the show, didn't we, that immediately they should ban any Chinese students coming into the country. It's as simple as that. Like,
it's a national security risk.
It absolutely
it's nothing personal, right? It's nothing personal. It's just a national security risk. I'm sure you understand if you're, here with good intentions in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got a son that's sitting there waiting to come into the country patiently.
Yeah.
I'm not taking it personally. I'm like, it's the process.
The time. Yeah. You told that story before, and I think about that all the time. The people who are doing things the right way are always the ones who are punished by a bureaucratic system that doesn't police itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're really seeing it in the UK. It's really got worse in the UK because you're seeing this disparity with this two-tier system, actually, where what they're doing is they're policing people for praying outside of abortion clinics, right? But then letting these rape gangs go. There's going to be a civil war in the UK because of that, because people fundamentally want fairness, right? You can kind of deal with a lot of stuff if you feel that justice is blind and people are being treated equally. And it's clearly not happening there. And it's clearly not happening here. And it's very frustrating. For me, I'm just like, okay, listen, I know that Trump's trying to deal with it. I understand the process, and I'm not complaining about it. I see the United States. It's a privilege to me that I was able to come here. It's an absolute honor and a privilege I could become a citizen. So I'm not going to complain about that. But what I will do is complain about these other people that just walk over and then they fly the flags of the countries that they left and demand to stay here, all while saying that they hate the country that they're in. I have zero tolerance for them.
Yeah.
Zero.
It also feels like this is I know we got to go to break here in a second, but it also feels like this is our chance to not be the UK. Right? Like we are very quickly heading in that direction. This is our chance to course correct. And if we don't use that wisely, I don't know what happens to this country after that.
The thing that really concerns me for the UK is the ongoing Islamization of that country. And that you see it starting to happen here in Texas and other places too. And we need to guard against that. The principles that formed our country still make our country great. And I think the UK has lost the plot in that regard, and they may ultimately lose the monopoly on violence that a government is supposed to have.
Oh, it's going to happen over there, without a shadow of a doubt. There's going to be violence in the streets. Yeah, without a doubt.
So, Mitch, you're talking about all of this, the how do you say it? Islamization?
Yeah.
Islamicization.
I don't want to know how to say it. Okay.
Your listeners know what we're talking about.
I don't want, if you want to practice radical Islam, you should not be here. My personal opinion. I won't push that on either of you. But you can agree if you want to. Anywho, I do want to talk about that when we talk about Texas, because I have very serious concerns about what is happening here in this state. And guys, by the way, if you think that, they're able to come in here and build these Sharia cities, just wait till you see what they're doing in the blue states as well. But we got to take a quick break and then we'll be back with more. I want to thank our sponsor this segment, MDHearing. So those of you who maybe you're reaching the age where you're just losing your hearing, I could tell you one of two things. Either you appreciate it because you don't want to hear your spouse nagging at you, or you wish that you could hear better. And if you are the person who wishes that you could hear better, and maybe you've checked out a hearing aid and you're like, that costs literally thousands of dollars. I could not believe it when I heard how much hearing aids cost. Not so with MDHearing. They make high quality, easy to use, rechargeable hearing aids with exceptional sound clarity, and they fit like directly in your ear. No one's even going to know that you're wearing it. The technology today is like impeccable. So go check them out. It was founded by an ENT surgeon who saw how many of his patients needed hearing help but couldn't afford it. Matt, have you reached that age yet?
What?
That wasn't planned. He's just that good, ladies and gentlemen. They sold over 2 million hearing aids, 45-day risk-free trial, 100% money-back guarantee. You got nothing to lose and everything to hear. Get it? Go to shopmdhearing.com. Use promo code Sarah. You're going to get a pair of hearing aids for $297. I'm not a mathematician, but that's way less money than thousands, okay? Plus, they're adding a free extra charging case, $100 value for listeners of Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. You can go to shopmdhearing.com. Use promo code Sarah. So, Mitch, or shall I call you Representative Little?
Please don't do that. Call me Mitch. Yeah.
What do you feel like? What were the highlights that the Texas legislative session walked away with?
Made some significant strides on education. So, there was this gigantic battle on school finance, trying to inject capital into the public school system. That was important. We made some significant gains on things like school choice. I passed my first bill, House Bill 4623, ending sovereign immunity for school districts in cases involving child sexual abuse. I think that was really important. We passed the Parental Bill of Rights, ending the sexually oriented and gender identity clubs in public schools, taking some of the really nasty books out of the public school libraries by removing affirmative defenses from displaying harmful content to minors. So I think we had a reimagining of the school system in this session. I think it's going to have a real impact for the average Texan too.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, congrats on Freshman of the Year.
Thank you. It's
Freshman
kind of a
of the
dubious honor.
Is it?
Yeah, it is, because, you show up rock rib conservative. I will vote, I'm going to fight the system that is not letting us pass our bills. And then the system names me Freshman of the Year. So you're like,
so
did he get
seductive,
sucked
isn't
in?
it? They're sucking you
Oh,
in.
you're one of
This is
them
already
now.
starting.
Oh, you're one of them now.
one of them.
I see. No, but I mean, really, I think the great thing about you is that even if there are these, I'll call them rhinos, you don't have to, but there are these rhinos who may disagree with you on a lot. They at least respect where you're coming from, and they respect the way that you compose and handle yourself, I think, is a lot of that.
I think a big part of it is I tried to grab onto every major issue I could and pull it to the right. So an example is bail reform. A broken bail system in the city of Houston, where I was born, ate that city from the inside out. Basically, they were letting people out with 5-6 violent felonies. They bail them out again and again and again. They go out and murder people. People with murder charges were released out on the streets by Harris County district judges. And so we were able to reform that system, keep people behind bars, basically forcing the judges to hold people who were guilty or being accused of or guilty in the past of the most heinous, violent sexual offenses. That made a big difference. We were able to finally pass the China land ban that I know that y'all were very concerned about.
Yes.
I'm concerned about it too. We passed, in my view, the strongest bill in the entire nation on that topic.
Good.
And so it's not enough for conservatives to say, we'll never get to be a part of the system. We'll never get to make the big decisions. You have to get in the game. And you get enough conservatives in the game, it starts to pull an entire legislative body to the right.
Yeah, so there's still, I think, work to be done to prevent things like I showed you off air. Those of you who are watching, I've got a Texas Scorecard episode dropping tomorrow that goes through the Dallas Pride Festival over the weekend and the Arlington Pride Festival over the weekend. And these are all billed as all ages, family friendly. Look, we have bounce houses and a petting zoo for the kids. No telling what we're telling them to pet, but we're inviting kids. I mean, it's really grotesque stuff that's going on.
What are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, it seems there's a degradation in society that's going on. And I think this last election cycle, we've started to push their fence back a little bit. We did not get the complete drag show ban through the legislature this session. It didn't even come to the floor for a vote. But Sarah, this is really a spiritual and cultural battle we're in the middle of, and it's not going to end anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of that, radical Islam. What do we? I mean,
this is
what do you do?
This is a topic that's very much it's front of mind for a lot of people, especially in the Metroplex. I mean, you guys have seen it. Yeah,
we talked about it on the show too.
It's very concerning. So the problem is not the First Amendment free exercise of their rights to practice their religion. That's not the problem. I think what people, if they really stop and think about it, the problem is the cultural encroachment of Islam on what is the cultural norms of the West. So you want to build a house, great, go build a house. You don't get to build an exclusive religious neighborhood around a mosque and say, hey, this is our new neighborhood. That's not how we do things in Texas. It's not how we do things in the United States. So it's going to need to be investigated. It's going to need to be enforced against locally, on the state level, on the county level. We have to push back on this encroachment on what are Western norms.
Yeah, I mean, we have these, certain. I don't even know what you would call them, but there are people who practice Islam who are here, and they come on these YouTube shows or whatever, and they kind of brag about how they're coming here, they're going to populate faster than we are, and they're going to take over. And it is very scary because, again, if they're doing it in places like Texas, in these little sleepy little towns where nobody's paying attention, they're definitely doing it everywhere else. And I understand, like, it's not, we have freedom of religion in this country. However, I do think there is a conversation to be had about the fact that, well, when we talked about freedom of religion, is there another religion that their entire religion is about killing infidels and people who don't believe?
It's really a big problem. You look at some of the more radical imams that are in both the Houston area and the Dallas area, that seems like a powder keg. It's waiting for something to set it off. And we have to be mindful and watch these things and not let them get out of hand. I'm sure y'all were glued to your phones and TVs over at the beginning of the week, watching what's going on between Israel and Iran. You think about how many people, Matthew, that we let into this country illegally from countries all over the world, and the potential problems that could create for us if the U.S. gets dragged into a national conflagration of that conflict. Bringing the fight to Texas or bringing the fight to your local neighborhood is not anything anyone wants here.
Well, we know, the FBI knows that there are multiple terror cells in the United States, and they know that there's a chance that they're going to be activated. So this is a serious problem. And we said the other day, Mitch, my son was playing in a soccer game like 2 weeks ago, and he played against a majority Muslim team, and they wouldn't shake the hand of the girls on my son's team.
Yeah, they're not allowed to.
But this is a big problem.
It is a big problem.
Like, you can't let this go. Like, all right, don't be in the league. Don't play the game if you're not going to do that, because these are Western values. It's a tradition. At the end of a game, it teaches sportsmanship to our kids, that they go and shake the hands of the opposite team. If you don't want to do that, then clearly that's just one little step. And I've seen it in the UK. Trust me, the one little step becomes 2, becomes 3, becomes 4. If you want to come over here, I know Muslims that have come over here, that they've come over here from Iraq, one in particular, who is an amazing person and loves America, and everything that is American he's down with. That's okay. The others we don't want. I do want to make this point, Sarah. We lambast politicians all the time on this show. And I want to make a point that Mitch...
Not him, though.
That Mitch... no, this is a serious point. That Mitch is the kind of person you actually want in government, because he does it because he doesn't really want to be in government, but he does it because he feels like he can fix something, and you've donated your time to go and do that. And we know that you're exactly the same off camera as you are on. There's no BS with you. And I want to thank you, because I know the sacrifice that you've done for Texas and for us and for the country, really, because that's what it is overall. And you have a family, you have a wonderful family. And I think that we need to remember that there are good people in the fight, right? Because we're on at them all the time. And I'm glad and honored to call you a friend. I just want to highlight that, because you're doing great work.
You're so kind to say that. I told my wife, and my staff, after the first 30 to 60 days I was in there, so from January through March, I came home and told my wife, I do not belong here. And and it's true that
Well, you don't have the horns growing in your head.
Yeah, there is just so much selfish ambition that is wrapped up in politics, and it manifests itself through the legislation that passes. And so after I kind of got over that stuff, and then I said, well, I am here, I could really engage and say, you know what? I'm going to pull this thing to the right as far as I can. We're going to try to make every piece of policy that comes to the floor better. And I think we did a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, our good friend, Attorney General Ken Paxton, obviously running for Senate against John Cornyn.
I've heard.
Have you?
Yeah.
Really? You heard that?
I've heard. He's going to wipe the floor with him, first of all.
Yeah.
And, there's going to be an open Attorney General spot. So I just wonder if you've given that
What are you
any thought.
saying?
I'm just wondering if you've given any thought to running.
I've given some thought to that. Sarah, Matthew, the biggest problems that we are going to have facing Texas, in my view, are going to be legal problems. I don't know if you guys have covered this on your show, but like on May 30th, there was an article that came out in the New York Times that the United States has essentially partnered with Palantir to gather and coalesce all the data on American citizens. Ultimately, what is going to happen is whoever represents Texas as its attorney general needs to remember that Texas is the client. It will always be the client. That the Texas miracle that allows us to have freedom and liberty and prosperity, this is not something that the federal government has given us. It's not something that any given politician has given us. We have to have someone who's going to be a warrior to fight for our rights. Who that's going to be, I don't know. I look at my life with my family, and I'm like, yeah, Matthew, I've given up some time to make sure that I could help make Texas the best Texas it could be. But is it worth upending my life and my law firm and everything over, and changing the trajectory of my wife and kids' lives? I don't know. You got a wife and kids. You've made some big changes in your life. How did you handle it?
Yeah, well, it's difficult, but I know whatever decision you make, we'll back it 100%.
Well, all I know is that apparently you are a politician because you didn't give me an answer. So,
I forget you.
yeah, no. Oh my God, look at that.
Oh,
You ran
look at
it
the
right
time.
into the break because we got to take a break. We'll be right back. Before we have to go, thank you guys for being here. Thank you especially. I know you're busy and I appreciate you. Can you tell me though, I heard that your office at the Texas Capitol is the office with ice cream?
It is. And it's really good. You know what? Everyone takes advantage of it except me. And I'm happy. They don't tell you that you're going to spend like 2 hours in your office for the last 2 months of the session. So I'm glad other people got to enjoy it.
Oh, that's good. So if you're at the Texas Capitol, I heard that was whenever they're in session.
Anytime.
That's an invitation to go get some ice cream from Representative Mitch Little, who follow him on social media, by the way. He's a great follow. Not only is he smart and brilliant and all that, he's funny too. Also, First Buddy here. We'll see you tomorrow.